Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the Regional Planning Governing Board for December 11th. And if we can please start with a roll call.
Sure. Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
Brandy Anderson. Here. Clara Andriola.
Present.
Mike Clark.
Present.
Naomi Dewar, believe she's absent. Jean Herman, absent as well. Donald Abbott for Ed Lawson.
Here.
Joe Rodriguez.
Here.
Sorry, I skipped. Devin Reese.
Here.
And non-voting member Beth Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Terrific. Thank you. And if we can have Santa Reese please do our pledge. Thank you. Before we do the approval of the agenda, we will be moving under business of the day, item A, and we're going to be moving that to our February 2026 meeting. So whoever does the approval of the agenda, if you could please make that adjustment.
I'll make a motion with the adjustment as noted by the chair.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further conversation? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Next, move along to number 4, approval of the minutes. If there are no changes or suggestions, can I please have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we move on to number 5, public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have none.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to number 6, the consent agenda. If no one wants to remove anything for discussion, if I can please have a motion.
Move as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Aye. Next, we'll move along to business of the day. And we're moving on to B, which is the regional plan amendment. Sunseeker for possible adoption of the Regional Planning Governing Board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Regional Planner Chris Tolley to take us through this item.
Good afternoon, Governing Board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item is a regional plan amendment for the Sunseeker Solar Facility. In that case, number is RPA 25-004. To start with the overview, as noted, this is a regional plan amendment, and we'll cover the details through this presentation. The Regional Planning Commission, or RPC, recommended adoption of the proposed RPA at their November 17th meeting. The Washoe County Commission sponsored a regional plan amendment on July 15th of this year. And finally, the Washoe County Planning Commission approved the conditional use permit for the subject facility at their May 6th meeting, also this year. Finally, regional planning staff's recommendation to the RPC was that the proposal conforms to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. Continuing with the overview, the subject site is located on the east side of Rainbow Way, approximately 4 miles north of the intersection with Fish Springs Road. The subject site is also approximately 28.5 miles north of the Truckee Meadows service area. And the overall site is approximately 1,128 acres in size and comprised of 23 parcels. And then finally, the entirety of the subject site is located in the rural area regional land designation. You can see on this slide the regional form map showing the subject site in proximity to the core of the region. And then moving into the neighborhood map, which is, both of these are in the item or the packet for this item. And then you can see the proposed regional utility site in orange, which is inside of the subject site. And then on the other side of Rainbow Way is an additional regional utility site that exists in our data. However, the actual substation has not been constructed to date. All right, moving on to additional overview. Forgot about this slide. Again, the proposal is a regional plan amendment to add an electrical substation Again, that is the orange site, and this will be reflected on map 3 of the regional plan. The proposal is also a project of regional significance, and as I discussed, the Regional Planning Commission considered this particular component, and that project of regional significance is for a 250 megawatt solar energy generation facility and electrical substation. The portion of the proposal, this portion again was found in conformance with the regional plan by the RPC. Now moving on to the review criteria identified in policy RC10. And both the RPC and RPGB consider this when evaluating proposals that amend the regional plan. So in regard to the bolded items or criteria, the proposal to amend map 3 of the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to add a regional utility site is not anticipated to influence or impact regional capacities or growth projections. The subject site and proposed facilities are located again in the rural area. Solar energy generation facility is aligned with the use types identified in the rural area description. The proposed project will not require the provision of public facilities and services. The proposed solar energy generation facility supports regional plan policy PF18, regional renewable energy generation. The policies regarding natural resources contained in the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan are sufficiently addressed by the Washoe County Master Plan and through the Washoe County Planning staff's analysis of the project. And then finally, when analyzing the case with the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan, staff did not find any conflicts with the proposed amendment. With that, that does conclude my presentation, and the motion is on the screen or on page 35 of the packet. And Team RPA, and I believe Washoe County staff should be online, are also available for questions on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Madam Chair, just briefly.
Of course.
I wanted to understand, because this is the first time I've seen this type of item before our body related to the substation. So it's not so much that I'm interested in the use, it is what it will be. But what is the, what is the goal of the regional plan governing board and our body? What are we trying to facilitate? And is the applicant Sunseeker?
The applicant to us, in this case, is Washoe County.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
And the regional plan and the statutes identify that electrical substations and a number of other things
Must
fall
come
under
to us
the
for
project of
approval.
regional significance. And then there was an effort associated with the Regional Utility Corridor Report. I don't remember the actual dates that occurred, but it was before our time, I think, most of us. But that identified that it was of interest for the region to basically inventory the regional utility sites which are defined in the regional plan, as well as regional utility corridors. There is a threshold for an electrical transmission size of 60 kilovolts, that if it exceeds that, then it comes in as a project of regional significance, as well as needs to be reflected on map 3 of the regional plan. So without getting into all of what NRS says, basically that's it. That it's required by NRS for us to identify these and consider them through the conformance review process, as well as represent them in the regional plan.
And has this already been approved through Washoe County?
It has been approved through Washoe County, yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Rodriguez, do you have any questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Do we have any requests to speak?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move
Yes.
to adopt. Oh, go.
Oh, go right ahead, Commissioner.
Want to do it together? I move to adopt RPGB Resolution 25-04 regarding an amendment to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Aye. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to C, which is presentation and possible approval of the 2024 Truckee Meadows Annual Report. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jeremy Smith for the record. We're going to have Shawnee Sousa take us through. There we go. Hello. We're going to have Shawnee take us through this item, and she is also the one that's responsible for creating all these awesome looking graphics. So take it away, Shawnee.
All right, Shawnee Sousa, Team RPA for the record. Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah. I will be taking you through the TMAR today, also known as our Truckee Meadows Annual Report. I do think I've shown you guys this each year, but I'll just kind of briefly go through it for you. The requirements for our annual reporting come from NRS, which requires each local government and affected entity to submit a report to RPC and RPGB each year. And this coordinated annual reporting program really helps with gathering data and to show how the region is performing with our regional plan. And some of you might remember at the last meeting that I mentioned that our timeframes have changed. So we are looking at this now from calendar to fiscal year. And that happened in the legislature. So that's why you're seeing it a little bit later this year. But we do anticipate that you might, see that this gets updated more regularly and sooner, because we're also working on our GIS architecture and our overall framework over at Team RPA. So we want this to become a little bit more automated, so that when you're looking at it, it might be in real time. So as we progress with our GIS architecture work, we're going to see this also keep up a little bit more in real time. All right, so now I'll take you through just briefly each of our categories. We have population, dwelling units, housing, land use, employment, and summaries. And last year we actually added housing, which looks a little bit more at affordable housing. And we did this in an effort to keep up with our regional strategy for housing affordability. The first part of that is that community profile of our region. And so we thought that was a good addition to kind of keep up with. So first, when you check out population, you can see it by jurisdiction. And what's great is it's interactive. So, you hover over and you can see how we increase, or if there was a decrease, but increase each year. And you can also see it by jurisdiction. Next, we move on to demographics, as well as the average growth rate at 0.81%, slowly increasing. Then we take a look at dwelling units, and we do this by not only jurisdiction, but also our regional land designations or tiers. And what you'll notice is, if we're thinking about our dwelling units, it really does start to tell a story, and it makes sense when you see that, okay, yeah, tier 2, we're seeing that increase each year. And when you scroll down, you get a little bit more of a story, and these actually usually kind of line up with the land use cases that we see come in. So if there's a bigger development that's come in to be approved for our dwelling units, you're gonna see that jump there. And I know these are really small, but if you hover, you can in fact see the actual units. And we have single family and multifamily. All right, then scrolling down to that affordable housing piece. Just added last year, like I said, to kind of keep up with our community profile. As you can see, our median home sales are staying consistent around $560, and our average rental price, unfortunately for me, is around $1,600. Median income slowly increasing. Rent is at 40, the people who own versus rent, the percentage is at 40% versus around 60%. And then we have our average apartment vacancy rate at 2.85. And just as a reminder, we do have our housing tracker that we also update annually. If you click here, you can go there and it shows you, home units and more details that you can look at. Next, we have land use. And this looks at more about if we're breaking it down, industrial, commercial, multifamily. Once again, we do that by jurisdiction, and then we go over to the right, and you can break it down by tier as well as land use. Then we take a closer look at, our own cases. So how many projects of regional significance have we seen? How many regional plan amendments, master plan amendments, and the acreage that was analyzed. And our final section here is employment. So you can see our average employment growth rate steadily going up. And we also take a look at our covered employment in Washoe County by industry. So you can compare the 2 years. And, during COVID, we could see, significant jumps, whether it was, maybe there was a decline in accommodation food services. Whereas now we kind of see each year it is a little bit more steady. You might see an increase or decrease, but it's not so sharp of an increase. And our gain in employees since 2023, we did see this decrease this year. A little bit more significantly than others, and it really helps us to kind of tell a story each year. We are curious about this one. We want to do a little more research into it, but each year we kind of have those questions and we check in with the last year. Does this make sense? Why could this be happening? So we think about it a little bit. Then our difference in percent share. Once again, you can kind of see where we've dropped and where we've increased. And finally, all of those entities that submit, as well as the jurisdictions, they submit a report to us, which the original is available. Oh, it's kind of moving by itself. Okay. The original is available down here. You can click on it and take a look. And we also just give you a brief summary. All right. And that concludes my presentation. And the motion is on page 51 of your packet.
Great. Thank you, Shawnee.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, I don't have a
Go right ahead.
question, but I don't know if it's a professional term, but that is so cool.
I agree.
And the data and the fact that you can hover and you can look at the filtering of things is really, really great. And I hope that we can share with the entire community and those folks who are interested in the great work that you have all done and how you put this together. So I just want to say thank you and make sure you're recognized for all that hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a really quick question because
Sure.
I noticed the numbers from the state demographer came out today. So you guys just update those things as they come in?
Yes, as they
Okay.
come in, that one in particular is one of the ones that comes a little bit later, comes later
Yes.
December, but as they come in, yes, we update it.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, if I can please have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to D, presentation regarding updates to the public infrastructure plan document and dashboard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Regional Planner Chris Tolley again to take us through the public infrastructure plan updates. This is year 2.
Good afternoon again, governing board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. All right, looks like we're set. All right, this is exciting. Year number 2, as Jeremy introduced. So this is the second, basically the second set of data. There we go. All right, so the public infrastructure plan, as we know, was created as part of the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Update. And policy PF3 calls for maintaining and updating the PIP, or the Public Infrastructure Plan. And our updates really for this document and dashboard are related to that. The document is updated on an as-needed basis. So this year we went through and added some language for the Cold Springs water balance analysis effort that is ongoing, as well as some other corrections and updates to the links and updates to maps. And this is the kind of work we anticipate happening on a year-over-year basis to make sure that the data is, or the document itself is fresh and up to date. And then when we look at the dashboard, as we will in a little bit, that this is basically where most of our work is occurring in terms of collecting the data and putting it out there in a way for the members of the community to understand. So this update, as and you know, we look at the added assets from the jurisdictions as well as the capital improvement plans. Those are basically the 2 documents that we pull from that are created by the jurisdictions and the entities. So we aren't necessarily asking for unique information just to save everybody's time. But that for this cycle, the updated data for the fiscal year 20, basically fiscal year 24 for the added assets and fiscal year 25 through 29 for the CIPs. And this is helping us to build a historical understanding. We started with 1 data point, and now we essentially have 2 data points and a variety of, I guess, unique types within each of those. And then we're also able to show public infrastructure statistics because that stuff is also reported in the added assets documents that are created, by the jurisdictions and the entities. And as a quick reminder, on the right-hand side, we are looking at the set of domains that are identified in the regional planning statutes, and that is related to water, schools, the infrastructure types, stormwater, flood control, transportation, and wastewater. And then when we look at the spending, we basically have 2 bins. The first bin is called reinvestment, and that is basically rehabilitating existing infrastructure. And then we also have a growth bin, and that is essentially additional capacity that we are creating to serve the community as it grows. A reminder of who we're working with: TUMA, WCSD, TURFMA, RTC, SVGID, Sparks, Washoe County, the airports, City of Reno, and WRWC. And we hope to also include the Great Basin Water Company in a more coordinated effort. We're able to get at their data through looking at the state, can't think of what it's called off the top of my head, but coordinating with them a little bit more to understand any particular nuance they have with their infrastructure and spending. All right, if we go to the website, please. So here we have, and this has all been updated, most of it, maybe like 99% of it's been updated. The data for the fiscal years that we looked at, again, added assets are looking backwards to the things that have been actually constructed and represented on the jurisdictions and entities' balance sheets. And then the CIP is looking towards the planned investment over the next 5 years. So we see the overall picture of the 5 domains here, collectively. And if you scroll down to the water section, perfect. And then an additional point to add here is that when we look backwards, we're also able to tease out not only the reinvestment and growth, but the developer dedicated, which is pretty much the growth category, the developer dedicated assets as those show up in the balance sheets. So we're able to capture that information and represent that as part of the share for that particular category. And that is, again, looking backwards at what was actually added. When we're looking forwards, we don't know that information, so we are unable to represent that in the CIP realm. If you keep scrolling down. So we have water, we have schools, and the statistics you can see at the bottom of this: stormwater, flood, transportation. You can look at the number of transit vehicles. For instance, this is one of the statistics we're able to pull from the added assets documents. Wastewater, and that's it. But I encourage everybody to go take a look at this. And the piece, we can go back to the presentation. The piece that we're going to be adding as we move forward and collect an additional set of data is really to look at the comparison of the data over the years. This is what I put together quickly today is just a comparison of the overall spending for each of the domains, the previous fiscal year, and what we're considering the current fiscal year in our data. So you can see that there is a difference. And I'll point out that on the added assets side, when a large project hits a balance sheet, that could significantly influence how it looks on the graph, because when we look at it, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but when we look at schools in particular, there is a big set of assets that hit the balance sheets of the schools, again, that becomes reflected in the data. So that's one thing to point out. But this is how we anticipate expanding the PIP dashboard to also show a comparison of the years. And I think just off the top of my head, thinking of around 5 years of investment being reflected eventually is kind of where I think we want to be. Obviously, we're going to be building towards that, but representing 5 years, or running 5 years. Cool. All right, with that does conclude the presentation on the Public Infrastructure Plan update, although we are available for any questions should folks have them. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions from the commission? No, we're good. I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept the presentation regarding the public infrastructure plan.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to informational presentation, discussion and possible direction to staff regarding fiscal year 2025-2026 budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take us through this item. Jeremy Smith for the record. And Carly, you could just maybe work the slides for me. We can go to the next one. So at the behest of this body, we start actually in October considering the next fiscal year's budget, and we prepare a preview presentation at our last meeting. It went kind of long with one of the items, and so we didn't get a chance to look at that, but here we are going to take a look today, and the short story really is that we're in pretty darn good shape with the budget. Thank you, Carla. We've been following your direction and working with the jurisdiction's leadership to create a sustainable funding scenario for TMRP, and so we're achieving that. In the last fiscal year, 24-25, we're in 25-26, and we're talking about the future, 26-27, so it gets kind of confusing. But for the one that is complete, we actually came in just around $6,500 under budget spending. So we made $6,500 basically that got added to our fund balance. That's pretty good and pretty tough to hit that magic zero number, but I would say that's a pretty small delta, and so a little bit of addition to our fund balance, which is in a good state. But we don't want to see big negatives there. So about $1.1 million budget is what we're dealing with. In terms of where the funding comes from, I know you're probably aware of this, but we'll just go through it really quick again. Per state statute, the main chunk of funding for the agency comes from the jurisdictions, and that's a reflection of your representation on this board. And so the City of Reno has 4 members on the board owing to the way the laws are written and the majority of population in the region. And so, in fact, that 4th seat costs a little extra, and you can see that the City of Reno pays a little more in their annual allocation. So it's really by seat. We augment that allocation, those allocations rather, with shared work programs. We have continued to have a really successful shared work program with the Regional Transportation Commission, where we get on the order of $75,000 per year. Some years it's been 100, other years 60, but we're pretty much in the 75K realm now. And we support them with GIS services. And we're really the folks behind the scenes doing the land use predictive modeling for the traffic analysis zones that feeds into their transportation demand model, obviously in collaboration with all of our partners of the jurisdictions. But that's a pretty important component of how the RTC accomplishes their regional transportation plan every 4 years. And so one of our things, we're constantly working on that data, because it's a constantly a moving target as people come through and change things, right? So it's management of the data, but Tyler and I are really getting back on the GIS, as Shawnee mentioned, the GIS architecture and getting some more stuff automated. So we're making good progress there. We also have a shared work program with the Western Regional Water Commission, and we help with things like maps for the Regional Water Management Plan. We've been helping them with regional effluent management, as well as some online viewers. It's a really neat idea that, to kind of create an online map viewer for the Regional Water Management Plan. We're going to help and host that. We work with Source Water. I mean, we're doing all kinds of stuff in the water realm, and they help support that with the shared work program. It's up to $50,000. That one we bill by the hours we actually spend doing it. And then finally, there's other miscellaneous revenues that come in. For example, last year we did some work with One Truckee River and the Nevada Land Trust and the consultant SWCA. We did GIS work to support some river restoration stuff. So we try to keep that pretty minimal, because we have plenty to do without that. But when we have a chance to engage with partners and do something positive and make a small amount of money, we try to do that. So that's kind of how we get funded, right there. And so what are we looking at next year? And this year we're on track. I don't have a slide for it, but we are on track this year. We have looked at the first quarter spending, the estimate to complete the year. We're on track to hit everything kind of as planned. No red flags being raised in my mind right now. So thinking about next year, what we're looking at is continuing the potential for merit-based increases for staff. We have talked about hiring a part-time GIS technician for a long time, and we now have someone who I think is a really good candidate for that, who's been working as an intern at the agency. And so I think we're going to be able to accomplish that in the next year, and that'll just kind of help the engagement level of the person to get a little more done, but they've really proven themselves, so that looks pretty good. But we will continue to use interns. It's always fun to get folks in from the university or wherever, and get their perspective, and then they learn a ton, and then it keeps it fresh. So that's pretty good, and it's pretty inexpensive. We definitely want to continue down. We've been doing some skills training at the agency for different stuff that we work on. We want to continue that track and have some targeted skills training, GIS training, management training, HR training, stuff like that we can engage in through various programs like Pool Pact or Esri. So we're looking at that. Of course, as you all know, the price of things continues to go up. It doesn't ever seem to go down. And so we want to continue to consider that there will potentially be small increases to costs for things like audits and bookkeeping and other services that are, copies, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, we'll talk about this in a few items, but, potentially an increase to my salary that we will identify and negotiate. And so we're considering that as well as part of the budget. And really the next step is to initiate discussions with the city and county managers, because ultimately I need to talk to them to make sure that the allocations that we're targeting for the next fiscal year can be achieved with their current scenario. And I know things are a little tight right now. What we do is we target, for the past few years, we've been targeting the West Region Consumer Price Index as the starting point for those discussions, which right now is sitting at 3.2%. That would be the maximum increase I think we would imagine that we would need in terms of an allocation. And I think we're in a good spot where we could weather, even like a 1%. But I do think it is a good call to continue to increase slightly the allocation every year to create that expectation and to make sure that we do stay sustainable, because currently or always inflation is going up. So that is part of that consideration, and I'll be doing that, sending those emails straight away and getting all that worked out so that we can bring back a proposed budget for you in February. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the budget. I have a really long mouthful proposed motion up there for you, but it's there on the screen, and I'm not sure what page it's on in the packet, but I'll try to find it for you. Page 60. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Nope. Good presentation. Okay, with that, can I please get a motion?
I move that TMRPA staff develop a fiscal year 2026-27 budget that considers the assumptions in this report, deliberation during today's meeting, and discussions with the city and county managers regarding jurisdiction allocations, and the proposed budget be brought forward for approval during the February 12th, 2026 RPGB meeting.
Terrific. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we'll move along to F, discussion and possible action regarding the annual performance evaluation for Jeremy Smith, Director of Regional Planning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. On page 61 of your packet, you will find a memorandum from me to everybody that summarizes the results of Dr. Smith's evaluation from everyone who completed the evaluation form. As you may recall, we shifted to a new evaluation format this year, and with a new range of a new scale as well. Dr. Smith's performance fell within the 4 to 5 range, which is exceeding expectations in all areas of performance, with his overall rating at 4.35. There's comments that were submitted, are also included in the memorandum. Subject to the discussion and comments by this body, I'd be looking for a motion to approve, please.
Thank you. With that, do we have any questions or comments from the commissioners? Mr. Reese.
I just want to thank,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I
Commissioner Reese
apologize, I'm
was first.
sorry.
That's quite all right.
I'm going
Go
to
right ahead.
let Santa go first.
Exactly.
Right away.
No, I'm just kidding. I want to ask Ms. Prunty, and I had the opportunity to read the packet and the memo that you provided. And so how many of the members did evaluations?
9 out of 10.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. What I wanted to say was really how grateful I am for the consistent leadership on this body. So I've now had the privilege of serving in elected office for, it looks like 8 years next year, and I've been on this body that entire time. And so I felt like on the first day, I really did not know anything about regional planning. Many of the concepts were very foreign to me. And over the last 8 years, I've had the privilege of getting to know not only you, Director Smith, but your staff. And it's just really an impeccable organization. It's a great group of people. The work that you do is substantive. It's a lot of it changes, right? The organization has been able to adapt and be flexible to the changing needs of the region. And also it's been very resilient. A lot of what happens in local government kind of is up and down depending on economies, political winds and wills, different people coming into office. And I think what I reflect on, and certainly my notes and my comments in this reflect on my just overall belief that your leadership has been consistent and bright, and I'm very thoughtful, I'm very appreciative of your thoughtful approach to it. I also note how, in my response or comments, I noted how many other organizations that you touch in the region, and I noticed that you had been just recently named to the board of another organization in the last week. And what I hear in the community is just very positive things from our partners at all agency levels and also at the nonprofit side of it, because you end up working with a lot of different nonprofits. So for my part, I just say thank you, tip my hat to you, and really congratulations on an evaluation that's really fantastic.
Thank you. Commissioner Andriolo.
What he said.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Oh,
All right, is that on?
you're not on.
There we go.
There you go.
So as a liaison, I don't get to participate in the annual evaluation of Director Smith, but it would be remiss to not represent your work on behalf of the school district. Very similar to Councilmember Reese, I started on this body 4 years ago, and it feels like a blink. And I certainly had no idea about what this body was, what it did. Your team brought me on, you trained me. We have tackled some really important topics over these 4 years. You have always created a space for my voice to learn and to contribute, and you and your team always take the perspectives 360 degrees around a situation, never with a predetermined outcome, but rather, what does the community need take us? What do my stakeholders value that I need to factor into the decisions that are being made? Recently, I've had the opportunity to work especially closely with Director Smith, along with Chair Vanderwell, and most recent past Chair Andriola, and of course, Ms. Prunty. And although I have been impressed by you in so many situations, particularly recently, you have really shown why your steady leadership, your thoughtful manner, even in challenging and nuanced situations. And that is all this work that you do. It is incredibly detailed, and yet you and your team are always able to break it down in a way that everyone can understand and see where they fit within it. And so while my own rating is not included in your evaluation, I want you to know loud and clear that from me as the liaison to this group, and then also on behalf of the Washoe County School District, we consider you to be a true asset to our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'll add in, because I definitely did not get to evaluate you, but I have before. It's nice to see, things are still going well over here. Just reading through the comments last night, I read one that just kind of mentioned about changing how you get the message out to the community using some social media. I think a challenge to yourself. I would also just suggest, and this is something that, as someone that is over on the Flood Project, not a lot of people know what the Flood Project does or has done. For that, I think a lot of people don't know what we do over in the regional planning. That I would also, suggest, if you guys are able to, I think all of us have lovely social media platforms ourselves of talking about what regional planning, inviting people to like the page or whatever and talking about it. Because that's something that we have struggled with Flood, and we're ramping that up and talking about it. But I guess I think someone challenged you and your team. I would also challenge the board to talk about and invite and engage with the posts so other people, our own constituents, can see what we're doing here instead of just I guess had a hot topic at the last meeting. But you guys do a lot of cool stuff, like the mapping and the website, all that stuff's super cool. But a lot of our friends probably don't even know what we do here. And I think talking about it makes it a little bit more normal. And I guess that would be my evaluation back to the board on that comment, as well as I think you're doing a good job here. So I'm definitely not picking on whoever made the comment. Just it was 2 cents that I thought of while reading it. And I think you're doing a great job, Jeremy. It's glad that you're still, or Dr. Smith, my apologies, for being here. And I think all of y'all are doing a pretty good job too. Thanks for letting me pinch hit for the mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Commissioner Rodriguez, anything? Okay. With that, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Now we'll move on to G, discussion and possible action regarding renewal in terms of contract for Jeremy Smith, Director of Regional Planning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record again. On page 65 of your packet is another memorandum from me regarding the director's contract and compensation. At your last meeting, the contract was extended to January 31st just to allow for discussions and maybe the potential that it would not be able to be renewed today. My recommendation is that if you vote to renew doctor's contract for another term, that you specify it starts January 1 through December 31st, which is in accordance with past practice for the one-year term. I did lay out the past compensation to give you basically the history of the increases that Dr. Smith has received over the years, starting with his interim director position to date. And I believe there was a recognition by the body with some fairly substantial increases in recognition of getting him caught up with other directors of similar organizations within our community. So there's everything there for you. I'm here to answer any questions. Historically, this body has voted to renew the contract and then delegate the negotiation of the contract terms, as in the compensation, to the chair and Dr. Smith and myself, and then we would bring it back to you for approval in February. But I encourage, if you have any comments or specific thoughts regarding what would be an appropriate increase, if any, that you make them known so that can be factored into the negotiation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I will open up discussions on that. Commissioner Reese?
Thank you, Madam Chair. From my experience, because I had the privilege of being the chair, I think that Ms. Vanderwall, you'll do an excellent job of negotiating on our behalf. So I'm confident that you will reach a fair and reasonable conclusion. Obviously, I appreciated the information, Ms. Prunty, that you gave about the historical trends. There was a sense, and this is probably going back 2 years ago, maybe 3, that Dr. Smith had been undercompensated compared to peers for a very long time. And so I wouldn't want the public to misunderstand why the jump happened. We all do salary surveys and studies, whether it's Korn Ferry or the like. And so I think everything is on track in the document in terms of what I see there. And again, I believe, Ms. Vanderwall, you'll be an excellent ambassador for negotiating the agreement with Dr. Smith on our behalf.
Thank you. Any other comments, suggestions? Go right ahead.
You have to be very deliberate with that button. So I had a question. What we do, for example, at the school district so that there is continuity, I noticed that it's a one-year contract. Is that ever anything that we've thought about or would be open to extending? It's completely okay if we don't answer this now. I just wanted to mention that since we know Dr. Smith is incredibly valuable, if there's ever an interest in engaging in a longer-term contract rather than year over year.
Thank you, President Smith. My understanding of the history of the organization, gleaned from my predecessor, Norman Azevedo, who served as counsel for a very long time, and myself over the last 10 years, is that it has always been a one-year contract. And the reason for that is truly, and nothing about the current director, is to give this body flexibility in the event that maybe the person who is filling that position at the time might not be suited for a renewal. So that's why it has always been a one-year term. But of course, this body could change its mind.
Do you have anything else?
I
Go right
did,
ahead.
Madam Chair, only because I think Ms. Smith often makes a very credible point and has the background in HR that I don't possess the similar background. So for my part, I would leave it to your judgment, Madam Chair, but I do think that we know what we have, and therefore I don't think we need a one-year contract. I would be more inclined to do a 3 or a 5-year contract, but again, I will leave that to you and Dr. Smith. The process of it having come back every year, I think, is rather challenging just from a timing standpoint, because we have to do all the work up, and we often find ourselves moving the meeting to fit in a schedule. I just think the time is ripe for us to do a multi-year agreement. So I would support Ms. Smith's suggestion and believe that would be the appropriate response.
Thank you. Anyone else have any discussion, suggestions on that? Okay, hearing none, I will take a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll move to renew Director Smith's contract for a one-year term and/or, as the chair and vice chair see fit, and to delegate that negotiation of the terms to the chair and vice chair with a contract to come back for consideration and ratification at the RPGB's February 2026 meeting.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Aye. Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to 8, and President Smith.
All right. So we have some exciting things afoot here with the school district that this governing body may be very interested in. So we are 2 years into the 2023 Facilities Modernization Plan repurposing and admin study. So next year, which for us is August of 2026, we will be opening the new Vaughn Middle School. I was just there earlier today. And then also the new Stead Elementary School. So keep an eye out. We'll start getting those dates out to you in spring of this year. And then we are in active design in a record number of schools, active design and or construction. In addition to Vaughn and Stead Elementary School, we have projects up and going for Matthews Elementary, Reed High School, Loder Elementary, Booth Elementary, Palmer, the new elementary school at the Pine campus, North Valley's High School, and more to come. So we have never been busier with our planning and with our design. And the underpinning to that has also been not just doing a bunch of projects and having the bandwidth for it, but how well all of our entities are working together. Dare I say, and I want to knock wood while I say this, the finer points of the permitting, our teams working together has never been better. City of Reno, City of Sparks, Washoe County, we really have this dialed in. And we're really looking to engage with you as much as we possibly can. For example, the school district and myself personally will be attending Councilmember Martinez's NAB in January. We apologize that there was a scheduling issue related to December, but we will be there in January. And so any time within your communities, these are also our communities. For example, Councilmember Martinez and I, we share and we serve the same people. So anytime your NABs, your CABs would like us to actually come to talk about the school projects that are coming, because they're not just the new projects that we're building or revitalizing, we are also looking at consolidation. And that kind of change can bring fear and anxiety, and we understand that. Even if our plan is to give them something truly wonderful, it is still a lot when you look at a school that's maybe been in your neighborhood for 50 plus years, like many of our schools have. And so to just be transparent with that, the schools that our board is moving forward with a repurposing around include the old Stead Elementary School, which is in operation right now, Kate Smith Elementary, Veterans Elementary, Corbett Elementary, and then also Smith Ridge and Dodson Elementary Schools. But what I want all of you to know, and this is also where I can be your partner, the district can be your partner, is that these projects in these areas will live on in service to our communities. This is land and these are sites owned by our taxpayers, and they will continue on in service to our communities. Each one of these sites will turn into a new chapter that is unique to what those neighborhoods actually need. So as you hear those things with your own neighbors, please feel free to tap me in. Please feel free to tap into my other colleagues on the board or the district, and we can work with you and your communities to talk about what this means for them. Because the commitment I will make to you today and to everyone out there is that we will be making these decisions in partnership with the communities that are around these beloved sites within their homes and within their neighborhoods. So we understand that change can be difficult, but years to come when there is, let's say, a new childcare, early education, it could be healthcare, it could be look like so many different things. When we're there on the other side of this, I just want everyone to know that we'll all be heard and we're here to really be good partners along the way while we make these changes. And on that note, another one of the big changes that we're looking at is the Administrative Facilities Modernization Plan. We have about 400 staff on the administrative side. And the way that our structure is it's not convenient. We have many satellite offices. A family with one particular need may have to go to 3 different administrative sites, and that is not good service. When a family needs us, they should be able to walk through the door to one building with all of those teams there ready to help. And so that's why we're embarking on a study about where our new administrative home should be. It may very well be on the site that we're on now. We own land right behind where our office is currently located. And since I did just mention that Corbett is coming down as an elementary school, that area in an expanded Wooster campus may also be a good site. We don't have those answers yet. We expect some more of that design study to come back in the spring. And then when we do, we'll be engaging with all of you as well, because there are implications if the administrative building, for example, were to move to the Wooster campus along with the school that's there. So just wanted to flag all of that for you. And please don't ever forget, when you have a question from one of your neighbors, I'm always here to you, as are all of my colleagues on the board. And then I will also close with, I mentioned it very briefly, but again, I've really had the opportunity to work with former Chair Andriola, current Chair Vanderwell, Director Smith, and Ms. Prunty on a number of things recently, and I am just truly, truly so grateful for all of you and the good work that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
I just don't remember, can I ask Dr. Smith?
Of course.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to ask first about the facilities modernization plan, and you are ever so kind, and yes, you do tag in on lots of questions and concerns. I wonder if that's something we could get a presentation here about, and maybe I'll mention that in my items at the request for future agenda items. One of the things that I have noticed as I had the privilege of being with you last week when we presented McQueen High School their state championship trophy is that parents in every school are very interested to know very specifically what's happening in their school or at a specific school site in their neighborhood. And so what happens is Councilmember Martinez and I think Ms. Andriola serves there. And so we have the opportunity over at the Capital Funds Project Committee sometimes to see a little of it. But it would be great if we saw it here at this body because it is so regionally focused. And then maybe there's something here about what Mr. Abbott said earlier, which is like telling the story. I would love to see some information about each of the things. I'll give you one example and then we can move on from this piece of the conversation. And that is Reed High School. Reed is going through its own incredible, I think it's probably like $70 million or $80 million transformation. But when you say that, some people say, well, I don't see it. Or they say, but they're not doing the carpet. And I don't know, certainly it's not my responsibility to opine or have information, but it would be cool for each one of the schools that are going through some of these really big changes. And we'll say Bernice Martin Matthews, Virginia Palmer was approved. These schools are really cool, and sharing the story about what WC1's money is doing very specifically, I think could be very helpful because sometimes when we're in political conversations, people say, well, why hasn't the money sunset? Or they're not really doing anything. Or I often hear people who say, like, why is it my school going first? I'm older. It's only this school area that's getting the money, which I think is all answerable, but it's such an incredible amount of information to share. So it would be great if the school district would undertake some like campaign awareness educational opportunity around that.
Absolutely. That is a great idea.
Well, that'd be really cool. And then I have just one other thing, and that was I noticed that the graduation rate has just been announced and increased for the third or fourth consecutive year. So we're up to around 83%. And of course, that's something to be celebrated. We all want it to be 100%, but the increase has been pretty dramatic. What can you say about that as an important topic for regional importance?
I appreciate that. I would say one of the main factors for that is good governance on the side of our board, and then also the 2023 legislative session. finally provided an infusion of funding that our board and an article came out earlier, Clark County as well too. And so money does not solve all problems, but it really does help because it allows us to put fantastic professionals directly with our students. And so what this community and what this state has seen with graduation rates is directly related to the influx of funding that we had received in 2023. We have remarkable educators within our district, and when we can retain them, when we can attract them, and when we can put them in service to our kids, we do really, really great things. In addition to that, it's also WC1, and it's the facilities that we have. When our children can be learning in hands-on courses of study like the new Debbie Smith CTE Academy in many hospitals that are set up, and not just at our CTE academies, but all of our schools, when we can get our kids working in programs and in spaces that reflect the value they bring to our community, rather than eating lunch on the floor when there's not enough room in the cafeteria, in a library, a multimedia center that really has all the things that they can really enjoy, they're able to really apply themselves. And so that's what we're really seeing across so many of the schools, because graduation rates don't just start your freshman year and certainly not your senior year. They begin in kindergarten, if not pre-K. And by uplifting entire verticals together in learning environments that have what these families need, which is not just classrooms, it can also look like family resource centers. So I would say it's the confluence of not just funding, but also what we were just talking about with the facilities that we offer, with the professionals that we offer, and really, really hitting our stride. I appreciate the question because our district is quite different than when I joined it in 2021, and I very much like the trajectory that we're on. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to member and directors' reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I just want to start by saying thank you very much for your comments and the evaluation and the advice and guidance. I really believe it's such a great honor for me to serve in this position. And I mean, to fulfill this role in the community. And it is a team effort. Thanks to you guys on this board. You're incredibly supportive, and the RPC as well. Staff, I couldn't never be here without all the hard efforts of everybody at Team RPA, and of course, our amazing legal counsel, Jessica. But in working with the jurisdictions too, I think just proud of the fact that we've been able to build a really collaborative spirit with everybody, and so we can move forward together. So I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you. And our next regular scheduled meeting is February 12th, 2026. And then we'll go ahead and move on to legal counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. I had advised everyone after the October meeting that an open meeting law complaint had been filed by a member of the public on the Stonegate item. I reached out to the Attorney General's office, and I've been advised that he withdrew the complaint, and the matter is now closed. So I'm happy to report that to you. And besides that, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season and spend it with family and friends and having a good time.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to number 9, board comments and requests for future agenda items. So Commissioner Reese.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to see the Washoe County School District's Facilities Modernization Plan presentation be made here. Adam Searcy, I think, is the person who might give the plan. And it will require maybe a 20-minute time slot because it's quite robust.
That's fine.
But it'd be well worth it.
Yes, totally agree. Anyone else have any future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have none.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to written correspondence. Do we have any written correspondence?
We do not.
Terrific, great. With that, I'm going to adjourn, so thank you.
Thank you.